Last July, I got the opportunity for my dream job. See, I work at the airport, so I get to play with planes all day. And my dream job, from the very first day I walked into the airport, was driving one of the Move Team tugs. These bright, big orange tugs with a Yeti sticker on the front, the guys in their black uniforms with bright orange vests. That's what I aspired to be, the Move Team. So the Move Team is like the special forces. These guys come in, they pick up the planes, they take them from the concourse to the hangars. They go out to the taxiways and active runways and pick up disabled planes and bring them in when we need them. So when I was given the opportunity to go for the Move Team, I was excited, I was ecstatic. You know, that was the very first call I told my wife, hey, I've been accepted. I get to try out for the Move Team. And the next 2 weeks as I prepared to go into training, that's all I could talk about with my wife, my family, my father-in-law, her grandfather, everybody I could talk to. I was just super ecstatic. This was my dream job. This was what I wanted to do. So as I got prepared, I knew that the next 6 weeks were going to be grueling, that only 30% of people actually complete the training. Each week, we were going to be tested, and you had to score 90% or higher to be able to move on to the following week. And the first week came, and unfortunately, we lost one of my classmates, didn't pass. Second week came, we lost 2 more classmates. And so as the third week came, we were super nervous. This was one of the hardest weeks. It's a week where we have to learn a different language, a language all in its own. It's how to speak with the FAA towers. And this is a language that you don't use in everyday life, so it's not like I could walk up to a friend and practice it. You only have each other to talk and practice with. And so for those 4 days leading up to the test, that's all we did was practice and practice and practice till we could practice no more. But we were ready. We were going to go in and take the test. And so everybody at home knew I was going to be testing that day, and I get to work, and I get a phone call. And I silent my phone. And then I get another phone call, and I silenced my phone. And then I looked at my phone, and I had a text from my wife. Call me. And I was a little nervous because typically I don't get phone calls from my wife at work, especially on a day when I'm going to be testing, and everybody knew I was testing. So I nervously called my wife and asked her what was going on. And she mentioned that her grandfather had been taken to the hospital. He was being transported to the VA hospital. He was having problems breathing. And a sense of dread came over me when I heard VA hospital. See, in 2009, I had lost my dad at the VA hospital. And the VA hospital in Denver was one that I knew all too well. For 6 years, that was the hospital where 3 days a week, for 5 hours out of those days, I was at the hospital holding my dad's hand when he was on dialysis. And every now and then, 2 weeks at a time, for when he had his congestive heart failure and he was having procedures done. So that hospital just brought a sense of dread. It brought a sense of, oh my God, what is going on? And then it happened again. I had put work before my wife. I told her, hey, let me get back to you. I've got to get back to work. And as I hung up, I felt something in me just drop. I saw the trainer come in, and he pulled me into the training room. And he gave me the first set of directions. Push back, take a left, make a right on Lima, go to Zulu, straight to the hangar. And I processed it, and I repeated it, and then waited for the second set of instructions. And all the while, the words I had told my wife played in my head. How could I have done this again? Then the second set of instructions came, and I looked, and I paused, And I told my trainer, I can't do this. He said, what? I said, I'm sorry, I can't do this. It's like, Kris, what's going on? He's like, you've been here early every day, you leave late, what's going on? I said, there was an emergency. My wife's grandfather is being transported to the hospital. He's having issues, he can't breathe. I can't do this. And he stood up and he walked out of the training room, and another sense of dread came. Because when my dad had gotten sick at my previous job, for taking extra time after my dad's funeral, I had gotten a 3-day suspension. And so here it was, another sense of dread. And so as I patiently waited for the trainer to come back in and let me know what was going on, I saw him open the door, and the supervisor was with him. Again, oh no, here we go. 3 days. That's all I heard was 3 days. And I sat there quietly, and I'm trying to gather my things, and it's like, oh. So now the hospital and a 3-day suspension. This is going to go over really well. And then they stopped me, and they said, is 3 days going to be long enough? I said, what, I get to pick my own suspension? How does this work? 3 days. Yeah, is 3 days going to be long enough with your family to get stuff figured out? 3 days to be with my family? Are you sure? Like, that's good? And he said, yeah, we want you to be able to take some time. You know, this is a very intense job. Your mind needs to be here. So if it takes 3 days for you to get stuff situated, then you can have 3 days. Yeah, that sounds great. He handed me his card, and he said, yeah, while you're getting your stuff ready, one of the supervisors is coming to get the van, and he's going to take you to the parking lot so that you can get to the car faster and you can get home with your family. I called my wife as soon as I got to the car and asked her immediately, it's like, hey, do I come home? Do I pick you up? Do I meet you somewhere? What do we need to do? And she said, no, come to the house. We need to get some stuff situated before we can go to the hospital. And as I sat there and I hung up the phone with her, it brought such a sense of relief that this time, that same number, those 3 days, had a completely different impact on me. This time, I was going to be able to be there for my family, for my wife, for her father, for her grandfather. It was going to be different this time. So come January, it's been 6 months since I was leaving the MOVE team training, and I had been told I could come back in 6 months and reapply. And I ran into the guys on the ramp. They had pulled in, they were waiting for a plane to come in for us to bring in during an emergency. And the guys saw me, and they pulled over and said, hey, Kris, you know, we've been waiting for your application. When are you going to come? We've been waiting for you. And I said, it's kind of funny. So the 2 weeks after the incident, my son got a job here. And I now have a new dream. My dream now is to train my son to be a lead, just like me. And so for the last couple months, I've been living that dream. I now have Jacob working side by side with me on the ramp every single day. And, you know, so sometimes when I think about how I thought that all hope was lost when I thought I was giving up my dream job, I realized that it wasn't giving up my dream job. I was walking into a new dream. Thank you.